Hello and welcome to Set the Westworld on Fire, episode number 8. I'm Ryan Shepard. With me today I've got Sci.
What's up, everybody? We're only 2 episodes left into this wonderful season of Westworld.
Yep, it's getting cold up here in New England, but things are certainly heating up in Westworld.
You got that right, Ryan. This episode, while not as revealing as last week, certainly had a lot of character development, and it seems to be setting the scene for a thrilling conclusion. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but...
Oh, definitely, yep. There's like I said, there wasn't a big reveal or anything here, but there is a little bit going on that is revealing quite a bit of what's going on here, specifically with all of these hosts' memories that seem to be coming back. Hence the term trace decay, which has to do with the kind of like how the chemical breakdown of some of your memories, how you remember some things and forget other things. In this episode, a lot of these hosts' memories are coming to fruition, let's say. They're coming to realize what these memories are and what they have to do with their past and possibly the future.
Right. Now, some of these memories, I think most people would be better off just forgetting, Ryan. But but I don't know if you want to include it for these hosts. And but we do get. I do stand corrected, Ryan. We do get to reveal a little bit about the Man in Black's past, which we'll talk about. Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right. These hosts are continuing to gain sentience. So it'll be really interesting to see how the creators wrap up this first season with the next 2 episodes.
Yeah. So we're gonna start out here with Bernard's story, and we're coming off him, of course, being revealed to be a host and murdering Teresa at the end of the last episode.
Crushing her skull, Ryan.
Yep.
Crushing that poor woman's skull.
So Ford has come up with a plan to cover up the murder of Teresa, and he orders Bernard to basically erase all evidence of their affair, as well as the GPS tracking information that shows them going to Ford's secret lab where she was killed. And the story he spins to Stubbs and Hale is that Teresa fell when trying to transmit the park's data, like the woodcutter did in previous episode. Ford also blames Clementine's outburst on Teresa manipulating his code, and uses that as an excuse to kind of shore up more control for himself, as well as, of course, reinstate Bernard to his original position.
And for those who missed last week's episode, that part that Ryan just talked about is actually true. Teresa did engage in sabotage, as we've seen in the previous episodes.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Hale is very skeptical of this, and Stubbs also has his doubts, specifically stating, Teresa's a very careful person, and that the fact that she would just accidentally trip and fall while doing something like this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But they don't call Ford out immediately. They just kind of play along with it.
Right, even though it seems to me, Ryan, I'm going to take it a step further. It seems to me that they heard the needle breaking off the bullshit-o-meter for what Ford was trying to do. And you would think somebody like Ford, with his intelligence, would come up with a slightly better excuse, but apparently there's only so much you can do in this world, so you got to make do with what you have.
Yeah, I really feel like this was, Ford kind of not dotting all his I's and crossing all his T's with this one. It seems kind of like a very haphazard way of trying to cover this up that, as we see later in the episode, doesn't really seem like it's working very well. So there's a scene here where Ford is basically surprised and I'd say proud of Bernard's realistic emotions about killing Teresa and how genuine his love of her seemed to have been, as well as the connection to his past memories of his child and his wife. And he also explains how special Bernard is because he knows that he's both a host and still behaves human. So it's like kind of like a dual mind thing going on where he knows he's a host, he's a robot, and these feelings aren't real, yet he's still acting like a human. He's not letting that control his behavior.
But Ford then also reveals how much of a bastard he truly is by stating that if he helped cover up Teresa's murder, he would erase all memories Bernard had of his time spent with Teresa. And of course that means burning all the love letters, and then Bernard, go like a CSI investigator, in reverse, removes all trace evidence of Teresa ever being in his room, including pieces of her hair.
Right, yeah. So specifically before Ford erases the murder of Teresa from Bernard's mind, Bernard asks if he's killed anyone else. Ford says no, but right before the erase occurs, he has a flashback of himself strangling Elsie.
Right.
So,
and you could be Stevie Wonder, Ryan, and tell that when Ford said that answer, it was a bullshit lie.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't even need the flashback in that to know that was going on.
No. But this also confirms what happened to Elsie.
It does. Ryan, I have one question. Do you think Bernard is the most advanced model in this series? Like, is he Ford's perfect creation? Is he the monster from Frankenstein? And I use that term lightly because Bernard is the exact opposite of the monster, of course.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. We had this conversation last week, and it's still in the same spot. I think Dolores is actually potentially the most advanced because she appears to be the oldest and has the most memories to fall back on. And Bernard is only as, at least at this point, only as, let's say, powerful as Ford allows him to be.
So Bernard is the puppet and Ford's still the puppet master, which you can apply for most of the hosts here. Although, Ryan, I have to argue, I think Maeve could also be in talk for the most advanced out of all the hosts.
Well,
considering
at this point,
how far she did.
Yeah, at this point, Maeve is kind of advancing herself, let's say, artificially.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if Ford even realizes what's going on, because he has to, even with all the number of hosts that Westworld has, you would have to think that somehow Ford knows what's going on and he's just watching behind the scenes, Ryan.
Yeah,
do you get that suspicion?
That's the big question you've been asking all along is how much does Ford know and how much does he let on? And how many, fingers in the pot does he actually have? Like, is he aware of what's going on with Maeve and just allowing it to happen because that's part of his plan? Or is this somehow happening under his nose and he doesn't know it? The more I'm seeing Ford, excuse me, and some of his, like the way he handled the cover-up of Teresa and some of those things, the more I'm kind of leaning into he may not know as much as we think he knows, but I'm not really ready to say for sure whether or not I think specifically the Maeve situation is not in his control.
Well, even if it's not in his control, Ryan, here's the thing with Ford. Ford, to me, is the most dangerous element in Westworld. And I say that because he's the smartest person in the room, and he seems to always be 2 steps ahead of everyone else. We've seen that with Teresa, with Charlotte Hale, with Lee, the disgraced writer, or the ornament pisser, as we should call him, for lack of a better term. But to me, Ryan, I have to take a disagreeable stance with you. I think that Ford has never been caught off guard, and he hasn't been shown to be caught off guard throughout the entire first season. The only time that the audience has certainly been caught off guard with Robert Ford's behavior at times. I mean, we can just count the moments, whether it's his emotional moment with Dolores, his first time threatening Teresa, the revelation of Bernard, and of course the subsequent murder of Teresa. So that's I just don't see how Ford doesn't know. Now being in control is one thing, but Ford not knowing, I'm skeptical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to see. It could end up being one way or the other. So one thing to wrap up Bernard's story here, he does have an interaction with Stubbs where he pretends that there was nothing going on between him and Teresa, which Stubbs knows is a lie because he's basically in charge of knowing what everybody's doing almost all the time. He then asks about Elsie, which Bernard also brushes off. So Stubbs definitely has his suspicions going on here as to something going on that Bernard and Ford aren't being 100% honest with.
True, but then again, we can't really blame Bernard, Ryan, because his memories of Teresa were wiped, and I'm assuming Elsie's memories were wiped because I think he truly doesn't remember what's going on. And just to end on your point, Ryan, this was a great showing for Jeffrey Wright. Again, I know I've complimented him in our previous episodes, but I thought this was probably his most standout performance so far in this first season.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a good job now that we know that his performance has a couple of layers to it as opposed to just the normal performance. It definitely shines a little bit more. Back to your point about the memories and things like that, I don't think that... I think Bernard's suffering from the same things that the other hosts are in remembering fragments of his memories because clearly he didn't remember fully strangling Elsie, yet he had the little bit of a flashback before Ford erased the memory of him killing Teresa.
Unless, Ryan, that was something to show the viewers in case the people watching were too dumb to...
No, he definitely reacted in a way that it was like he was remembering it.
Maybe, Ryan, but, I mean, if it makes me wonder. Bernard did discover that the hosts were starting to gain sentience, yet he never realized he was a host, and for all we know, nobody else, and I don't think anyone else who's a human in Westworld knows that as well. But it'll be interesting to see how Bernard's character progresses. Now, again, he very well could be suffering from this bleeding effect of sorts, or however you want to call this memory recognition. The other part is, Ryan, is whether Bernard knows with what happened was real or not, because the hosts are programmed, or many of the hosts, they are programmed with different story settings and different aspects of their life. But again, we're going to just have to catch up and see.
Sure, I mean, he could be questioning it because he's now questioning everything about his past. So in another scene, we have Hale recruiting Lee for a special project. They activate Abernathy, that's the original version of Dolores's father.
I think his name's Peter. Isn't that correct, Ryan?
I think so. But they refer to him as Abernathy.
Oh.
And they upload a lot of data into him. And Hale basically tells Lee that he has to come up with a story, an excuse of sorts, to get this host out of Westworld. And that's right. And that's where that storyline ends off.
And we also see that Lee is basically now Hale's lapdog. Mm-hmm. And Lee, being that he made such a grandiose first impression in Hale, I mean, what better to show the VP of the board, Ryan, than pissing on a replica of the map, or the actual map of Westworld?
Mm-hmm.
A little unprofessional. I mean, I don't know, Ryan. If I was the VP, I would have fired his ass immediately. But then again,
it doesn't really seem like this place functions like a normal business.
Well, that's for damn sure. Any business that has the employees actually living there seems like some sort of, for some might be a utopia, but for others it's dystopia, mm-hmm. which is clearly the latter in most, or at least what we're being shown in this case.
Yeah, so we'll see how this pans out. It'll be interesting to see how Lee sneaks Abernathy out of the park with all that information. So now we're going to focus on Maeve's storyline, which we touched on a little bit earlier. And this probably is, between this and the man and, I guess they're all pretty significant. But Maeve forces Lutz and Sylvester, those are the two technician lackeys that she's basically coercing into helping her escape Westworld at this point. She wants them to do a full rebuild of her system to remove a failsafe explosive in her spine.
Yes.
That I guess all of the hosts have, just in case they do escape the grounds, they'll explode. Nice.
What? Yeah, that. What is? There was an old movie that had something similar to that, Ryan. The name escapes me, but
yeah, there's been those kinds of storylines where you can't escape the prison because you have a bomb strapped to your ankle or something like that.
Yep.
So she also ends up giving herself full admin privileges, which gives her direct control over hosts in Westworld, yes, which is a huge issue for obvious reasons.
And they did not lack showing that too, Ryan.
No. Through all the rewrites, she also gains the ability to kill humans. And she proves that by cutting Sylvester's throat when she wakes up, and she lets him bleed out because she knows he was conspiring to wipe her mind as opposed to helping her, as opposed to Lutz, who seems to be on Maeve's side.
Or he's just weak-willed, Ryan.
Yeah, that's probably more like it. But at any rate, she does cut his throat, and he would have died if she hadn't ordered Lutz to save him, because she still thinks he may be useful to her. Now, obviously, it's important that she's able to kill humans here, which we knew we were going to get to eventually. But the thing I want to talk about is, what is this tool he uses to magically heal Sylvester's throat?
Well, Ryan, I believe that is a tool for cauterizing the wounds, obviously. But I must say, that's some pretty advanced technology.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it hurts like hell because they obviously didn't have time to do any anesthetic, because anytime you take a scalpel to someone's artery in the neck, well, that's just going to be, you don't really have too much time for that, Ryan. Let's be clear on that. But that was a cool tool. That was like something out of Star Trek, Ryan. Don't you think?
That definitely. It was very. I was surprised that it existed, and I figured it was just something that would work on the host, but I didn't realize it was going to work on humans too.
Well, I mean, the hosts are like replicants from Blade Runner. I mean, they do. Or you can even go with the Terminator series. You know, they're a cybernetic organism that has human skin and moving parts, Ryan.
Right.
But forgive my bad Arnold impression. But that is a cool. I mean, at first I thought Sylvester was a dead man, because anytime you get sliced in the throat like that, Ryan, you're usually a goner. Mm-hmm. Westworld takes it another way and shows us some cool technology that saves him. But I guess it makes sense, seeing that this is a futuristic show, or it's a science fiction show, I should say, and mm-hmm. gives us a futuristic version.
Yeah, if this was Westeros, he'd be gone.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. We would be playing harps, and this would be another low grade version of the Red Wedding, or any other of the hundreds of characters that GOT has killed off over the years.
So yeah, after this scene, we get another Westworld edition of a popular song. Back to Black plays in the player piano version of it, which seems to be a pretty good trend that this show's going with, that I'm enjoying quite a bit.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a symbolic meaning to that, Ryan. Now, forgive me, I'm not really kept up to date on the music there. Just not my forte, people.
Well, I mean, the music themes are matching with what's going on in the world of Westworld. So, you know, she's something's going down. Maeve's ready to cause some trouble in Westworld.
And trouble she causes, Ryan.
Yeah, so she tests out her new abilities by commanding several of the hosts to her will. Her ultimate plan is to take command of Hector Escaton's gang of outlaws to assist her in escaping Westworld. Now, we see that go down a little bit, but it doesn't really pan out as far as I thought it was going to go.
Right. Although you do have to admit, Ryan, in some ways it was kind of funny how she told the sheriff, or at least the deputy, these people are law-abiding citizens, and then the sheriff puts his gun away, gives a very formal greeting or informal greeting to one of the robbers, and the robber just looks at him and then shoots him in the back.
Yeah.
You have to admit that is, in some ways, that is kind of humorous.
Yeah, they have their little dark humor moments, like she tells the two marshals to quick draw on each other and things like that. So they're having a little fun with it.
Right. Well, if anyone asks what happened with the two marshals, one of them could say, well, one of them found out he was porking the other guy's wife, and it just ended badly.
Yep. At the end of this night, let's say, she begins to have a breakdown where she's having the flashbacks to when she was with her daughter and the man in black killed them both. And then this flashback goes even a step further, and she begins remembering when Ford and Bernard erased the memory from her. And then this all ends with her being brought in for diagnostics. And I'm not sure if this was what Maeve intended, or if despite all of her best attempts, she still just isn't in control of her own free will.
No, actually, no, Ryan, I'm going to say that you're absolutely right there. I think I'm going to take it a step further and believe that with all these new upgrades and additions that she's applied to herself, I think she was going through some sort of overload, and that she's not able to fully integrate her new abilities, and while she's retrieving these past memories, Ryan, I actually think that because she's remembering all this, she's quickly losing her grasp on her own reality, and she's losing grasp on her own power. I mean, cutting the new girl, almost killing her, and then causing a shutdown, basically, just seems, it just seems to prove to me that she's, like I said, she's not as fully in control as she wants and as we're led to believe. So how her story is going, I don't know, but I don't anticipate a very happy ending for Maeve, at least this season.
No, that's the takeaway I got from it too, is that this wasn't part of her plan, and it kind of didn't go the way she wanted it to. On the other hand, she's done this before, where she's forced herself to get picked up and brought in for diagnostics, and then it ended up being part of her plan. So you never know, she could have something up her sleeve. So now we have Dolores and William's storyline. They come upon a massacred group of soldiers, and Dolores finds a survivor and wants to help him out, even though William is kind of like, in a from a practical standpoint, it says, like, this probably isn't, he's just gonna die, he's wounded. But she has one of her visions where the voice continues to tell her to find her, and she actually sees her dead body floating in the river. Unfortunately, it was too late for the wounded soldier, and they move on. But this is the first piece of this, the first memory fragment that Dolores has in this episode that kind of leads her down to quite a bit of a breakdown.
It's absolutely.
So she continues to have these as they are continuing their journey, and she's trying to piece them together, but the more she sees them and the more she experiences them, the more confused she gets. She keeps seeing flashes of the town that we've seen a few times. I think the earliest instance of this town we've seen in a little bit where they were trying to teach hosts to dance quite a while ago. And
yeah, what were they doing? Square dancing or the waltz, Ryan? I don't know. I'm not a dancer.
They were just kind of shuffling back and forth, not really doing too much. She sees that scene, and it should be mentioned that this is the town that features the church that she also keeps having flashbacks for. So all of these little bits are coming together in this one scene here. And this also appears to be the town that Wyatt massacres everyone at, because she begins to have a vision of that beginning to occur. And then she also has a vision of the town completely empty. And that, I believe, has to do with Ford's current narrative, where he's trying to rebuild this town and have it be a key part of his new narrative. And then we also see the destroyed church steeple sticking out of the sand with William and Dolores in that time period as well.
Right. It seems to me, Ryan, like Dolores is going something similar to Maeve. It seems to me that even though Dolores didn't program her own upgrades, they seem to become more in an evolutionary style. But it seems to me like with everything she's remembering, it seems like she's going into overload as well. And this makes me wonder, Ryan, do you think that going back to Ford being more in control, what if Ford implemented some sort of safeguard, or he's implementing some sort of experiment to see how far his hosts or his creations can really go before they crash? That seems to be, that's something I'm wondering.
Yeah, again, it's a further question of like how much is Ford in control? Does he know what's going on every single moment, or is this going on without him being fully aware? Because we already know that he's had a meeting with Dolores and things are going on that he's not aware of with Dolores.
Right.
So this could be that, or it could be something that he's coaxing along.
Or it could be out of his hands entirely. This could just be some sort of mechanical form of evolution that's taking place.
And what's interesting is we see the different stages of this town. That seems to be a major key to figuring out these timelines that are going on, because the more with this episode especially, we're kind of getting an indication that there probably is multiple timelines going on. It's just a matter of figuring out where everybody is in these timelines.
A who's who, Ryan. That's what it is. If there are indeed multiple timelines.
And the big question is, she sees the town empty, which seems to indicate that that's the most modern version of that town. But then she's also with William, with the church, the burnt out church steeple sticking out of the ground, and we saw that in the beginning of this season in episode 2 with Ford. And yeah, I'm just really taken aback as to exactly where all of this is taking place, and whether or not Dolores seems to be the one host that's in all of the timelines too.
Right, and we also can't forget, Ryan, that Dolores also believes that Arnold arranged for her to come here for some reason, which again, it's unclear to us for now, but I mean, again, it's also possible that Arnold is playing a hand in this, whoever Arnold is, because he has yet to be revealed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a little bit more going on with timelines in one of the other storylines, so maybe that'll bring some clarification to it. Just to wrap this one up, William does try to snap her out of her breakdown when she's trying to get all of these timelines straightened out. And they end up running into Logan, who is now riding with the Confederados.
I think he's now leading the Confederados,
yeah, it seems
Ryan.
to be.
Well, that's what happens, Ryan. Payback is a bitch as well as betrayal. So
we'll see what happens there. So now we come to the Man in Black and Teddy's story. So they're walking along and they come across a bunch of people that Wyatt's followers have killed. And there's only one survivor, Angela, and it turns out that it's the same host that greeted William in episode 2 when he first arrived.
I knew she looked familiar too, Ryan. I just didn't think they gave her a name. But she looked so different, Ryan. I mean, again, when she first introduced herself to William, she was in more modern clothes and style. Mm-hmm. This time she looks more like a farmer's daughter. So I should explain that's why I missed that at first.
Yeah, and she's also, her hair's all messed up and she's got dirt all over her face and everything like that. So it's definitely a different look for her from the prim and proper version that you first saw. And the Man in Black recognizes her and realizes that she's been repurposed. She thought she had been retired. So there is some question there on timelines as well. I've read some things suggesting that this may be the biggest key in determining that William's timeline is taking place in the past, but I'm still not 100% on that. There needs to be one more piece of evidence in order for me to say that. I should
but
mention,
it is an interesting theory, though.
It is, yeah.
You very well could be right.
It's really, every time I've tried to dismiss this multiple timeline thing and it keeps coming back, there isn't one piece of evidence that completely disproves it or completely proves it. So it's still on the table.
Well, I gotta mention, Ryan, this host, Angela, goes from being a concierge with benefits of sorts to now being one of the actors in a story. Is that like a promotion or a demotion in your mind, Ryan?
I don't know.
That gets me wondering.
I don't know. Based on her current condition, I would say that's probably a demotion.
I guess so, Ryan.
So I wanted to mention one other thing is in that, and the flashback that Dolores has to the town and everybody dancing, she does see Angela in that vision as well. She's playing a character like a prim and proper lady carrying an umbrella. Whether or not any of that's accurate, it's really up in the air at this point. But well, I guess it isn't up in the air because they've pretty much came out and said that the hosts remember things exactly as they were, as opposed to humans who get the details fuzzy.
And they all live free, Ryan, under Robert Ford's control.
If he wants them to.
Yes.
So during this encounter with Angela, one of Wyatt's men ambushes them, and during the struggle, Teddy has a flashback of the Man in Black dragging Dolores because the Man in Black is dragging this attacker in the same fashion. And at this point, he realizes that the Man in Black is actually his enemy, not his friend. He knocks him out and ties him up at the end of the interaction.
Right, so now it seems that Teddy is now becoming more sentient and possibly on the evolutionary basis. Yep. Whether it's controlled or not, we have yet to find out.
So Teddy is now also having his flashback issue. This is the first time we've seen Teddy have those things anyway. So, the Man in Black's all tied up, and they're at a campfire. It's gotten dark, and the Man in Black then decides to reveal himself to Teddy. He tells him that he's in fact a titan of industry, big business guy, a philanthropist in the outside world. He tells Teddy that he had a wife and daughter, and that the wife killed herself after realizing the monster that the Man in Black actually is. Despite his best efforts, he wasn't able to keep that dark side just in Westworld. It also leaked out into the real world.
Although, to be clear, Ryan, it was his daughter at the funeral, I believe, according to the Man in Black, that said that about him, that his wife did commit suicide by swallowing a bunch of pills, and that the daughter, according to the Man in Black, seems to have no love for her father, and that and blamed him for causing her mother's suicide. Now, whether this is true or whether it was just an emotional moment, we don't know, but it did have a profound effect on the Man in Black.
Right, and regardless, the end result is that the Man in Black lost basically his whole family and his life that he had built over his entire life. And he tries to kind of reconcile that by going to Westworld and seeing if he feels any emotion by killing Maeve and her daughter. And this connects that Maeve's memories to actually being something that did in fact happen in the past. And it also puts it in a timeline because the Man in Black distinctly said that all of this happened within a year of the current time. Mm-hmm. So this Maeve and daughter memory that Maeve is having happened within the past year.
Right.
So, but instead of finding redemption or reconciliation, he found that he actually had no emotional impact by killing them, and it actually ended up inspiring him because he saw Maeve, I guess you'd say, acting the most human that he had ever seen a host act, just basically trying to survive, and this leads him to find his first indication of the maze.
Yeah, and which later becomes the obsession, Ryan. Although I have to admit, I don't think this was the best test for the Man in Black to prove whether or not he's a sociopath or not, because he knows that the hosts are not human. And for some people, I mean, we've seen it with, you can even go as primitive as hunters. Those who don't consider something to be human can automatically see it as expendable. So that makes me think that this might not have been the best test for the Man in Black. But again, it's to show his flaws. I have to ask, Ryan, did this add any sympathy to you towards the Man in Black character? Like, did this revelation that he gave do anything for you?
No.
Okay, it did not.
No, I mean, he already admitted that he was that monster before the suicide and everything like that. So basically, true, in my mind, he's basically reaping what he's sown.
Right, but then again, how is he a monster? I mean, monster is a term more of a perception, and so it makes me think that, did that mean he killed people in real life? I mean, was this guy Patrick Bateman, for Christ's sakes? I don't know.
No.
But it makes me wonder who he was in the real world. That's kind of what I would like to see somewhere down the line.
Well, the whole insinuation was that he appeared to be normal in the real world, and he took out all of his primal instincts inside of Westworld.
Right.
So he had all of that inside of him, but he had Westworld as his way to get it all out, as opposed to actually like hurting his wife and everything like she feared that he would do.
Allegedly, again, this is all from his take, so we don't know how much. I'm sure what he's saying is true, but he said it in a really vague format. I was hoping he would go more in depth of that, Ryan. But again, we're left for our own imaginations on this character.
I really don't think this little bit was meant to be like it could be taken a different way or anything like this. This was just a basic info dump on the Man in Black's past to give him a little bit more character and a reason for why he's doing what he's doing.
And while it did reveal some, Ryan, it was more like a trailer than anything. It revealed some, but it didn't reveal all. Which, I mean, again, it's left to our imagination, and hopefully someday down the line we can learn more about the Man in Black and who he really was outside of Westworld, if they choose to go that way. I just think it would be fascinating.
So this wraps up with, Teddy having now know all of this, and Angela kind of trying to coax him into shooting the Man in Black and killing him because he's such a terrible person. But Teddy can't do it because he still doesn't have the ability to kill humans. So instead, Angela stabs Teddy with an arrow, and as a betrayal to bring him back to Wyatt, because there is still some history there between Teddy and Wyatt, and I think we're going to find out a little bit more about that in the coming episodes.
Right, and to be clear, Teddy was not killed in this episode. Although in some ways we probably want to wish he does have a mercy killing of some sort, because it sounds like the history between these two is very sour, which of course was alluded to in the previous episodes. So what's going to happen to Teddy, Ryan? Is he going to meet a very grim fate as he has done over and over in this first season, or is he going to get another redemption moment?
I don't know. He may end up being, coaxed by Wyatt into fighting by his side. I think that's what Wyatt is trying to do. I think he's trying to. Otherwise, you would just kill him. There must be some reason why Wyatt is trying to bring him in and talk to him. I think that we're gonna find out that their history was they were basically riding together, like part of the same group of ex-Confederate soldiers, and Wyatt's going to try to build that back up.
Possibly, Ryan. I mean, like you said, there's many ways that this show can go to.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, the next 2 episodes are setting us up for some big either plot twist or plot reveal, or actually, technically in this show, both go hand in hand. So it will be intriguing to see how it progresses with Teddy's storyline, as well as the other characters in this in the show. So we'll just have to keep our minds open and our eyes watching for the latest developments.
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw out a long-term theory I have in terms of where I think the show is going, because we're coming up to the end of the first season here, and we're obviously going to have some story lines that aren't going to be tied up. It just doesn't seem like they're going to be able to rush all of that in. And some people had thought that maybe this is going to be like an anthology series where each season was maybe taking place in a different type of Westworld, because the original story had like a medieval world and several other different worlds. I think what's going to happen here is there's going to be a host uprising, and they're going to take over Westworld. And then somewhere along the way, people are going to investigate Westworld and have to deal with whatever the hosts have created, whether or not Ford is still alive or any humans are still alive. I'm not sure, but I think that's the direction I'd like to see it going.
Well, Ryan, that would be a very interesting scenario, and I think a lot of things have hinted that there very well could be an uprising of some sort. But Ryan, while I find that interesting, I think that might be a little too conventional. I think that while it's possible, I think that there's going to be more reveals to either that theory or it's going to go in a completely different direction. Like, one of my theories, or small theories, could be, I'm not even entirely convinced that Ford is human. I'm somehow thinking that he very well could be a host, or that he's could still be collaborating with Arnold somewhere, and that he's just pretending that he's dead. But I mean, it very well could be that if your theory is true, I wouldn't be surprised if Ford is going to be the eventual leader of this uprising, because he keeps saying control, 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 which means to me that either he is going to eventually lose control, or that he is going to be this messiah that he dreams of being, or that he imagines himself as being. But again, we still have to find out who the hell Arnold is, the story of Wyatt, Ford's true intentions or ulterior motives, as I don't believe all have been revealed. It's going to lead us, Ryan, to some very interesting conversations over the next 2 episodes.
Yeah, my theory is based around the inspirations of the writing, and that it's almost going to be a little bit like BioShock, where Ford is the Andrew Ryan and the hosts are the splicers that have run amok, and somebody is going a team or somebody is going to go and like maybe the beginning of season 3 or something like that. They introduce a whole new cast of characters that's now entering Westworld as it's already been overrun and destroyed by the hosts.
Or they do a Westworld prequel where Robert Ford is played by Kevin Costner, and Bernard's character, who's revealed to be Arnold, is played by Will Smith.
I think Kevin Costner's too old.
Well, Ryan, I don't know. I mean, I think Kevin Costner could play a younger Robert Ford, but that's just my theory. And again, Ryan, in the original movie, there were multiple Westworld. There was a medieval world, and there was another world, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So again, it could be in some ways. I mean, to me, it doesn't have the anthology feel to it. It's not a true detective. It's not an American horror story or an American crime story. It feels to me like this is a cast of characters that's set to stay, but I could see spin-offs, which again, spin-offs don't necessarily have the best history in regards to television, but I mean, again, Ryan, I think we're going to have to get to the end of the first season to actually see where everything is going.
Yep, I just wanted to put that out as a possible long-term theory. All right, I guess that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Set the Westworld on Fire. If you like what you heard, like and subscribe. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you're thinking, what your thoughts of this episode were, any theories you have moving forward, because we like to dig into those and discuss them on the show whenever possible. And we're going to leave it off with a yeehaw!
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!
Get along, little doggy.